So Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania just came out and the reviews have been mixed to say the least. But I wanted to come on and give my take about it because I feel like I sit somewhere in the middle between the massive debate that's going on about this film. Is this really the death of Marvel? Can the media giant that is the MCU topple because of one film? Well, I feel like as a whole, it's safe to say Phase 4 was received very poorly. I personally enjoyed a lot of the projects that came out of it, but on a general basis, audiences did not receive well to losing the old characters. You know, we had great projects like Miss Marvel and Eternals that were just thrown to the side because people weren't ready to move on from the Infinity Saga. And how could they? When you look back at it, the world building that was done in these films building up to Infinity War and Endgame was astounding. Nothing like this had ever been done before. Sure, franchises could come and go, but they always had some sort of set structure. Marvel took stories from all over their universe and blended them together into their own canon, and it paid off big time. It turned them into the world's most beloved franchise. But what happened to that franchise? As I said previously, Phase 4 was kind of poorly received by the general Marvel audience. Films like Black Widow and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, while nowhere near the worst films in the MCU, really only cracked the surface of what they were trying to do. Not even an auteur director like Sam Raimi could really save that film from becoming a cameo fest. But we shouldn't blame Sam Raimi for that because I feel like Multiverse of Madness had a lot of production issues that we never really heard about, mainly because of the director switch and COVID as a whole. But now that you know how we got here, let's talk about where we are. Quantumania, the start of Phase 5, and we're kicking it off with... It's okay. Listen, Quantumania is nowhere near a masterpiece, but it's nowhere near the second worst MCU film ever. In the last year alone, we received Thor: Love and Thunder, which I could talk about at length. My distaste for that movie genuinely knows no bounds. But as someone who grew up with the MCU and only wants to see it succeed, a film like this just kind of sits in the middle. On one hand, I really enjoyed seeing Kang the Conqueror in action. With Thanos, he was always a background player, using the Avengers as chess pieces towards his end goal. With Kang, there are so many interesting and powerful variants that we're able to pull from the comics and stack up against the solo heroes before reaching the Kang Dynasty. And it's a nice way to show his power. Like I said before, it's interesting to see someone who isn't Thanos be our next big bad. But personally, the way Kang ended up in this film kinda left me mixed. Don't get me wrong, Jonathan Majors is one of the best actors the MCU has ever hired. He gives this film his all and really makes Kang a threatening figure. There's a certain scene that was released as a clip but is fleshed out in the film, and it really packs a punch and it makes Kang very threatening. Aside from Jonathan Majors' performance though, the character of Kang falls flat. We learn about this variant, but not what Kang as a whole wants. With Thanos, we learned his motivation during Infinity War, but I really don't hold him in high regard as many other people do. I think he's a fine villain and Josh Brolin gives a great performance, but that's what I feel about Kang in Quantumania. Which leads me to have faith in the MCU because I feel like building from Kang as a base level here is a great idea to show him become more and more powerful in each appearance. So with all of the flaws that I have with Kang, he really does carry this film. Paul Rudd is always great as Ant-Man, and Scott Lang is a likeable character. The first Ant-Man is a film that I deeply cherish. I was a big fan of Scott Lang back when we first were introduced to him, though I think that his solo outings have never quite reached the peak of Ant-Man 1. Another thing I really enjoyed was the soundscape of the quantum realm. Christoph Beck has been one of my favourite composers working in the MCU since the first Ant-Man film. His soundscape for the quantum realm is genuinely amazing, with the synth flurries throughout the theme, and the reappearance of the fantastic Ant-Man leitmotif. As much as I love the fun sci-fi elements of this film, this is kind of where my compliments end. Because I feel like this is a recurring problem that we keep coming back to with Marvel films nowadays. The tone is inconsistent. There's so much discourse about the Marvel formula and the jokes during serious moments, but this film in particular feels like a big offender. Off the top of my head, I can't think of too many jokes that ruin serious scenes, but the tone as a whole is not as dark as it needs to be. And I'm not saying that every film needs to be The Dark Knight or Zack Snyder's Justice League. All I'm saying is that if you have a threat as big as Kang, the tone should reflect what an imposing figure he is. Which I feel like we were really getting to with the ending. Spoilers for the next 30 seconds or so, skip to this timestamp to avoid it. At the end of the film we see Scott repeat his opening monologue but with some slight adjustments to fit what has happened throughout the story. But halfway through we start to realise with Scott that Kang warned them he needed to escape the quantum realm and something bad would happen if he didn't. If I were Peyton Reed I would have ended the film there. I think that it was a genuinely stunning moment that captured the weight of what Scott had done. But no, we continue on to Cassie's birthday scene, which as a whole was sweet but kind of ruined the last moment. But out of spoiler talk, I think another one of my biggest problems was the recasting of Emma Furnham. I genuinely like Catherine Newton a lot. I think she was really good in Detective Pikachu. But man, I don't know what it was, I didn't feel the chemistry between her and Paul Rudd like I did with Paul and Emma in Endgame.
Cassie.
Within roughly about a minute of screen time, I believed that Emma was Cassie. And maybe it's because she's a bigger name actress, but I could never believe that Catherine was the Cassie that we knew in the first two films. And this is no fault of her own, the writing on Cassie's character was genuinely abysmal. Paul Rudd's performance was great, but the writing of Scott's character also let him down. As a whole, I feel like Civil War really destroyed Scott's character. He would never leave his family to go to Germany if there was no good reason. The whole first film was about Scott being a better person and he wasn't going back to jail, and that's exactly what he does by going to fight in Civil War.
We're outside the law on this one. So if you come with us, you're a wanted man.
Yeah, well, what else is new?
I guess a concise way of putting it is that Quantumania is a good film that could have been great. Setting a film entirely in the quantum realm was something that we didn't really need, but having Kang exist inside there, making the quantum realm his own sort of Chronopolis from the comics, was really cool. To sum up this film in 2 words, I would say wasted potential. There was so much development that could have gone into Kang, and all of the scenes between Jonathan Majors and Michelle Pfeiffer were amazing. They were 2 masterclass actors, just giving it their all. But not even the great performers could salvage a weak script, and unfortunately that's what they had to work with. But with 2 great post-credit scenes and seeds for the future planted throughout, I think Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania succeeds at setting up Phase 5. Disappointingly, you have to watch this film as an episode 1 to Phase 5 and not as a finale to the Ant-Man trilogy. A finale which it really deserved to be because this character deserves better. Okay, pause the video. This is Jack from the future here to discuss everything that I missed. MODOK is fine. I think the design controversy is stupid because there's no way to make him look better than he does. I really enjoyed the route that they went with him, bringing back Corey Stoll as Darren Cross, and just, it was a creative way to do it. Hope and Hank are criminally underutilized, but this is nothing new. Hope still just feels like a side character, and in a movie called Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's really disappointing to see this happen. Like I keep saying, I feel like this movie is fine, but with everything that it could have been, I can't help but make a critique like this. Okay, that's Jack from the future done. Back to the video. To close this off, I'd say go see Quantumania yourself. It has tremendous flaws that really weighed it down, but overall, I couldn't help enjoy it. And that's about it from me. Stay tuned to Charted Films for the next time I milk a Marvel film for views. And that's about it. Stay tuned to Charted Films for the next time I milk a Marvel film for money. And that's about it from me. Stay tuned to Charted Films for the next time that And that's about it from me. Stay tuned to Charted Films.
Why are we still here?